everybody, and today I'm gonna do something different today. Well, everybody knows, and it's pretty much everyone's seeing on the internet now, the CM Punk interview with Colt Cabana, as he pretty much explained everything to why he left to WWE and what he's doing now and the problems he had to deal with. And I just kind of want to get my thoughts on it and kind of go in on it. And I'm like, wow, no wonder he left this company after they were screwing him out of his money and he was hurt. And it's just, I just want to bring up some topics out of it. Kind of starting off with the whole MMA thing he brought up of him wanting to wear MMA shorts because he just wanted to reinvent himself and having sponsors on him. But Vince didn't want to do that, saying MMA is barbaric, somebody's going to die, and pretty much that. Like, did you know they're putting the women in? But it's just odd how you wouldn't let CM Punk do it. But when Brock Lesnar came back, a guy who's been in UFC for over 8 years, left your company and then came back, and he gets to wear Jimmy John's and all this other MMA stuff, Punk said, even though he was already sponsored by 3 of them, why did he get to do it in that Punk? And alright, yeah, he just blowing smoke up his ass, he says, and he didn't like that. And talked about how he was, offered the, role in 12 rounds too, but that pretty much went on to Randy Orton then, because he talked about how he was injured from Cena doing a Muda lock and how it rolled. And Triple H talking about the European tour, and Vince wanted to go on tour, but he didn't want to. And it's weird how Punk found out about the whole Orton getting the role of 12 rounds 2 online. And he talked about Cena, and like, he's friends with Cena, but he hasn't talked to anybody wrestling related ever since he left the WWE. And pretty much he talked about Punk. Punk talked about Cena, talked about the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He did all of those and everything, but we all know Cena kind of got the spotlight because he's posted aboard the company. Let's get that straight. But I will say, I did agree with one thing when he said WWE is a pit stop. They didn't make CM Punk. CM Punk made himself. He will not be defined on what he does for a living from them. Like, I did what I did, but you didn't make me. And he talked about Vince a lot in this company about the network and why pay-per-view buy rates were going down and stuff, and just why they kind of went into the network, and talked about the concussion testing program, which is a bunch of bullshit. Which, they don't do anything to protect their wrestlers. They do anything to protect themselves. That's what the WWE is. It just looks good on them. And pretty much, talk about MMA, NFL, NFL players suing the NFL over head traumas. But Vince didn't want to do that. So, he pretty much talked about the concussions, how he really suffered a lot of concussions from the Royal Rumble. And I don't know how he passed the test, which is bullshit. I don't know how you made him run the ropes after you found out he didn't have a concussion, but he can clearly said he had a concussion and he was hurt, and I guess they were stubborn. He just didn't want to get punished if he didn't wrestle in that. And talked about dropping the title to the Rock at the Royal Rumble, which I thought this would have been smarter what he said. And I thought about this a long time ago. Why couldn't CM Punk have his 500-day title reign? Which would have been good, and it could have been a triple threat match for the title. And maybe drop the title for The Undertaker. Like, that sounds like a smarter idea. Talked about the elbow surgery and how they made him come back at the first Raw of the year after they did the surgery, but he had to come back already. He also, Punk talked about he didn't want to turn heel when The Rock was the champion, but The Rock has to battle a bad guy, though, Vince says. He has to fight a bad guy for some odd reason. Even though he's great as a heel, we can't take that away. CM Punk's great as a heel, and we know that, but he said, and he just, he's like, I work The Rock and everything, and pretty much, he was beating in him in merchandise. He was beating Cena in merchandise sales, and I've said this before. Let's say, I think we all get this straight. What was the point of doing The Rock versus John Cena last year at WrestleMania, just so John Cena get his road to redemption? Like, why are they the main event? And it sucked. And we all know Undertaker versus CM Punk was probably the best match on WrestleMania 29 last year. It was the best match. You can't really say it wasn't. And he talked about how the Shield was his idea, which I was very surprised. Like, so CM Punk created the Shield. And he talked about the writers told him like it was going to be Big Show and Bryan, but Punk didn't want it. And he talked about guys bringing him up from FCW, which are Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Chris Hero before he got fired, or Cassius Ohno. But they switched to Roman Reigns, and, he congratulated the Shield and everything. But Ryback. Let's get on Ryback, how it took on nearly 20 years off his career. and why am I putting over this steroid guy for some reason? And talked about how he was kicked in the stomach real hard and had broken ribs, and probably didn't apologize for it. And he talked about Vince going from the hospital, like I said before, getting a match against Ryback for the title. And even WrestleMania come around. Now this is what it like. Why do I have to keep putting over these guys part-timers? Why is it that Punk's not getting paid as much as The Rock and The Undertaker? Which was the point of losing if both of those guys are going to be gone anyway after WrestleMania. And so he could be the hottest heel, but he didn't have nothing to do with him. But, and we all know, like I said before, Punk versus Taker, best match of the night. And after the surgery, and even when Punk has enough money here, people. He's got enough money he's made off of wrestling. He says, this is fucking ridiculous. Look at his bank account saying, like, I don't gotta do this anymore. I can go work at Starbucks and I can get better health insurance. I'm like, wow, how much money did you have over there? Because like they would not take care of Punk over there. And talked about, which I went to the Payback pay-per-view last year. When I saw CM Punk return, when they brought him back for that, and then Brock, but he wanted to come back at SummerSlam, but they said Brock was going to return at SummerSlam, so. And him and Brock get along, so he pretty much shut down all the rumors saying, like, whoever thinks me and Brock aren't friends needs to shut up. And he didn't like losing to part-time wrestlers because pretty much what beat who he was. Like, this guy said, like, it's funny how CM Punk has really had to wrestle part-time wrestlers to put them over. Rock, Taker, and Brock. And pretty much they asked if he want to do Ryback. Said, you're kidding, right? I gotta go back to doing Ryback, Brock from Ryback. And he got a ruling against Curtis Axel, but Triple H could not. Like I said, Triple H buried Curtis Axel the first night. He slapped him to the ground, tried to get the sympathy from the crowd at the end of the show. Where did Curtis Axel ever amount to? Because Triple H really did not put him over. Sorry. He didn't put him over and everything, and pretty much went back on Ryback. Pretty much talk about he was in a gorilla position, I believe, or something like that. He put him over his head, and he was supposed to slam through the table, but he missed, and Punk got mad at him. That's like, you tell me right now you're dumb as fuck, or you did it on purpose, and pretty much took the table right back and said, oh, dumb as fuck, and I'm sorry. Which Ryback really was killing CM Punk, if to be honest, hurting him. Which we're going to get into Ryback's response in a minute, but he talked about he was hurt by Roman Reigns by a spear, and a match against Luke Harper or something hit him with, and the European side. He had all these concussions, and doctors didn't want to do nothing, and he called the doctor some pig, and they were lazy, not doing a job, and he was so much on his medicine. Antibiotic after antibiotic. So a lot of antibiotics. But he pretty much said he was on all these antibiotic pills and shooting himself in the ring, which Vince and Seth Rollins found was funny on the internet, but WWE officers made him remove the word shit, and pretty much he blocked WWE from Twitter. And pretty much Vince, I don't know, it's like Punk was just having MRIs every week after week, as he said, and Vince kept telling him, oh, you won 3 times, and never came. And he wasn't happy with his WrestleMania pay, which I don't know why he wasn't getting paid as much as Rock, John Cena, Taker, or any of these guys, but he has a less pay, though. And pretty much says WrestleMania sells WrestleMania. The Rock doesn't sell WrestleMania. WrestleMania sells WrestleMania, and they just depend on part-timers most of the time now. And talk about having I can't say the name right, hematoma, and doctors wouldn't remove it because he was lazy. The doctors were lazy, and put her out swabs to the size of a baseball, and talk about it was going to burst if he never took another bump, and pretty much more antibiotics. And he had to be in the Royal Rumble match. And he talked about Kane would have had to come get him out of there, but he rather kept going, and oh god, buried Rusev for a minute. Rusev was a fucking idiot. Like, pretty much just like, none of these people care about your push. You gotta do something. Do something impressive. Stop kicking him in the corner. Throw him. Do something. Just, it's your moment. Create something. Do something. Stop standing around like an idiot. And he's asking, what do I do? I'm like, I don't care about you. I don't even know who you are. He got ripped up in half. Even Kofi a little, because even Kofi kept saying, like, what do I do? And did some rolls in the ring thing. And talked about his concussion again. And pretty much it kind of came to the point where once he left out of the ring and talked about I need to go away for a while. And, you know, talked about the drug test, which you could take 2 months off then and stuff. If he took this urine test, so you want some strikes off. And that's what the meeting began. He talked about with him and Vince, and he told Triple H to stay. And he said, I don't love this business anymore. I know where it's going. I've lost passion for it. I'm hurt, and you're not caring about his well-being. He's all wrestlers are independent contractors, pretty much. I've had multiple conversations with my friends. They're independent contractors. Okay? They're just being told they can't go nowhere else for some reason. And talk about he doesn't care about if he's hurt in that. Vince just cares whatever segment or whatever you have to be in and take this urine test. And he talked about Batista bringing him back as a face, and it was not gonna work. And him and Batista cool, they're really great friends. But yeah, and pretty much he talked about Batista and Triple H told him, like, hey, Batista didn't take the same urine test, and he told Hunter, say, did you? And he said Triple H stood there and said nothing. Said nothing. And then pretty much he talked about the main event of WrestleMania and talked about, you don't think I'm that big of a star, just fire me right now, because you're creatively stifled him, you shackled him, you put him in a toxic environment, he said. And he was even surprised that Daniel Bryan even was in their main event plans for WrestleMania, not him. He really was mad at that. And pretty much he talked about, oh yeah, when like, why didn't you do the same thing for him like Bryan was when Punk was hot 3 years ago, but you fed him to Triple H. And pretty much, oh, it's the concussion talking, which he sounds like an idiot for saying that. And pretty much, Punk was in the main event. You were facing Triple H, and he just pretty much looked at Triple H and pointed him, and he like said, I don't have to wrestle you. You have to wrestle me. He told Triple H that. And yes, everyone's had this conversation before about Triple H. Cornette, other guys. Triple H cannot get over a draw on his own. He only can draw when the person who he's going against, he'll be able to draw. And this has been proven millions of times. People have said about this hundreds, millions of times about Hunter. And talked about said, you want to do what's best for business. Why'd you come in and squash the whole thing? Man? That's what you were called for. And then he talked about, why am I losing the Miz and Truth? And that's not even best for business. And he pretty much says, I'm in a position where I can tell you I don't have to do something if I don't want to. And I don't want to wrestle. He said he didn't want to wrestle him at WrestleMania. I'm not giving you the privilege to wrestle me at WrestleMania. I'm not giving you the fun privilege to wrestle me at WrestleMania. Pretty much what he told Triple H. And he said Triple H never liked them. There was never a positive vibe when they were in the same room together. He just never liked Triple H because he knew Triple H was a prick. And he was stoked that Bryan had his WrestleMania main event. They can never take Daniel Bryan's WrestleMania main event away from him. And even though he's been hurt for the past few months, and I look at like, wow, this is what happened when you get Daniel Bryan now. And now he's been gone because of the concussion. Now he's hurt. And he talked about which I find this is funny, when Triple H said, well, you worked the main event against Undertaker. And so he would say he went against him. He said, I went against him. I went against Undertaker too. And he pretty much told Triple H, did you get the same pay that I get? Because he said, how was it the main event of WrestleMania if it wasn't the main event? It should have been the main event of WrestleMania, but Triple H trying to tell CM Punk you were in the main event of WrestleMania. No, it wasn't. The main event is always going to be the main event. It's going to be the last match on the show. All these double main events, triple main events, they try to tell us it's all a false. It's false. It's not true. The main event's the end of the show. And pretty much says, I bet you Triple H was paid the same when he went against Undertaker. Like Cena and Rock and others, but he wasn't. And pretty much at the end of the meeting, he said Vince was in tears. Lots of tears in his eyes. And just tried to say he went to go for a hug, but he just gave one of those pats on the back, and Triple H shook Triple H's hand. He's like, "Goodbye, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm done with it here." So he's an independent contractor. He could have logged off any time he wanted to. He could have left anytime. Unless they tried to get him back, and they tried to get him back, and pretty much he was getting married to AJ soon, and talked about, wow, I didn't know he pretty much had a, when he went to her doctor in Tampa, pretty much he had a full-blown staph infection. They got it out of him. He said that was one of the worst pains he's ever been through. And having this for over 3 months, CM Punk really could have died. He could have died from this stuff. And people did not cut it out. The WWE doctors will not let him cut it out. So, oh, it's all good. You will look at it, but you're clear to wrestle. But he really wasn't. And it was a horrible pain. And had to get this thing out of him. Shit shot into the air, he said. Those were the worst pains. And I'm like, wow, could have died. And pretty much Vince suspended him for 2 months. Then after Mania, like, okay, I don't care. So, pretty much, he even had to hear from the quarterly conference. I remember him during that conference. He was on a sabbatical, okay? Then he stopped getting his royalty checks. And there was a check he did get, but it was never issued. Anyone reissued, and they said he couldn't get his money, so they were holding his money. He kept getting butt calls from WWE Talent Relations. And says, oh yeah, we're going to check your checks. We're checking your checks. And pretty much Hunter texts them and says, alright, we'll talk soon. We're going on his honeymoon. But this is what I found what was weird. And just let's get to this point. Like he said, CM Punk was never quit the WWE. He didn't take his ball. He didn't walk or go home with it. He was fired on his wedding day. Termination papers, he said. Calculated, deliberate. But he's like, you guys pushed the wrong guy too far. You messed with the wrong person. How do you fire him on his wedding day when you're in a meeting and get tears in your eyes? Like, we're family, he said. But you fire him. You fire him on his wedding day. And he said it's ridiculous. And pretty much, he's not a lawyer, but he knows, like, he's in breach of his they say he's in breach of his contract since January 27th. And he says he's not a lawyer, but shouldn't you notify the guy if he was in breach of his contract and just instead of firing him? He talked about the non-complete clause, like Del Rio had then. And his release papers. And pretty much, because they mentioned he was going to go to UFC. And pretty much, it's funny because WWE says UFC is not any competition in WWE, which is one worse. That's an asinine thing to say. Isn't UFC? Well, yeah, I bet you UFC's pulling more money than a better product than these guys are doing right now. Because right now it's just shitty for WWE and their current product. And he talked about his lawyer, and then his lawyer said, "We got these motherfuckers." He says, "We got these guys." And then the 2K video game, how they advertise his name without false. This is where he comes. This is where he sued the WWE, well, the video game, because it was false advertisement. You didn't talk to him about it, and then pretty much said, "We have your attention now." And he pretty much told WWE 2K, "Do I have your attention now, motherfuckers? Do I have your fucking attention now? Thanks for the big fat check." So you can't blame him not getting his money off the video game because he was never there. No facial recognition, no nothing but a video game. And then try to do joint statements and like, no, I want my money. Okay, just give him his money because they really tried to agree and compromise with him, but he wouldn't do it. And then when WWE, well, yeah, I was there to pay it back. They say, oh, I remember Stephanie McMahon saying CM Punk quit on you guys, and pretty much telling people, he quit in his hometown. Then accused him of going to TNA just to be on a platform to bury the WWE. Which his lawyer told him like he doesn't want to do professional wrestling right now. He despises it. Like, I never even really imagined CM Punk was going to go to TNA anyway. If he did, that would have been a big move. I would have been shocked if CM Punk went to TNA or any type of wrestling company and started shooting. But he pretty much says the WWE is just a bunch of bullies. Even though they've lost, they got to feel like they won something. They just got to win with their lawyers. So they know they were getting screwed, but they got to feel like they won something. But he gave WWE the right to sell their merchandise. Like, he could have stopped that also. The merchandise already been made, so you guys can keep doing that. And pretty much WWE's terrified. They didn't want to go to court because that's not how they wanted to do business. And he wanted the guys in the back to be, have a union because, they're independent contractors. But they got to keep working there. And Draper says, like, he's free now. I know he knew he didn't get his WrestleMania main event. That's all he ever wanted was to be the main event of WrestleMania, what he told Vince. But Like, he's free, he can do everything, as long as he's got this whole comic thing going, he can do what he wants. And pretty much him and Kevin Dunn, he said Vince and Kevin Dunn said, yeah, you were the main event of WrestleMania. And he says he knows he's the main event. And he said he didn't want to be, you know, to say about WWE, but, you know, he's got friends there and all that. You know, wonder why he doesn't talk to him. So, I even like the story when he talked about he was at that Blackhawks game. I remember that fan. He kept shooting on him on the internet. He was like, "Hey, Phil, you're not even going to respect to ask me. Be nice to me and I'll be nice to you." But to get into this whole in-depth thing about the interview on the Art of the Podcasting with Colt Cabana, I can't really blame him. I believe he's telling the truth of everything he said about the company. And I know Ryback responded saying, like, I'm not fragile like other people. If I did this, I'd be quitter, he said. So Ryback tried to come back with some type of response. Like, he said, if I quit for being fragile, I'd be insecure and all that. So, okay, why did you try to kill him then for some reason and hurt him on purpose? What's your heat with him? And, you know, Rusev was scared of CM Punk. He was scared. He was terrified of him. Terrified. So, that was another thing. But, and I know about their health thing. The concussion tests really suck because, maybe, I think people stop calling Billy Jack Haynes crazy now. He's really going to sue him over this whole concussion thing. How they're not protecting the wrestlers. But Vince is doing everything he can to protect himself. And they don't do anything. They just protect themselves just to make them look good in the public eye. When they're really not. So, I'm glad CM Punk exposed these guys and exposed Triple H to be even more of a prick and Vince, Matt Karen, and a whole bunch of other guys. And it explains a lot why he walked out and the pain he suffered and how miserable he was in this company. And pretty much like he just quit it. I'm done with this. I'm left. I'm happy now. I don't blame him one bit. So I know a lot of people responded to this whole thing, and I'm just giving my thoughts and opinions. And there was a lot of good things to hear about listening to the whole podcast and reading about it also. So I'm like, wow, you can't blame him. Now, I don't think it's gonna be one of those things in years in the future if he'll come back, like the little Ultimate Warrior, and you know reconcile in 20 years. I don't know if that will happen because some people say, oh, he's the new Ultimate Warrior. Somebody told me, but I don't know. But like, let's see CM Punk keep making his money though. Like, hey, keep suing these guys. You're making money off of them, so hey, they screwed you anyway. So you gotta get him back. You fire him on his wedding day though. That's crazy. So I'm just gonna end this thing right here. Once again, you know it's me, the HLOD, coming with the news reviews. You know, I even know what I do with the show. Here I go, post interview on my show also. And I just want to say, comment, subscribe, tell me what you thought about this entire interview. Just my thoughts on the entire interview and kind of recapping it throughout most of it also. So I just gave my little bit of opinions and thoughts and recapped it. So it's an interesting listen to. It's a good 2 hours to listen to. I recommend it to everybody if you really want to know the real reason why CM Punk left the WWE. Do that. And I just wanted to comment a little something else of when I did one of my videos, live reactions. I talked about Sting in my videos. People were getting mad because I said TNA when Sting came out. Okay, yeah, I know he's from WCW also. I can't say TNA for some reason because I watched Sting throughout pretty much his entire career in TNA. Like, I wasn't that old to remember Sting being from Surfer Sting days. I only grown up on Crow Sting in the late WCW and then pretty much his TNA career. Yeah, Sting's a 15-time world champion, but they're not going to mention that because he was in TNA, I guess, and, not mention his TNA title wins. But I'm counting him because he's a 15-time world champion. Like, I don't really care. I just wanted to address, I guess, some comments. I never really do. I do read comments, so it's like, whatever. Like, my opinion's my opinion about what I said about the whole Sting and the live reactions. I said TNA, whatever. And people can hate on TNA, but I can say one thing. Yeah, Sting did get a bigger reaction. He does have a bigger outcome, and I guess that would be. But you had to admit one thing: TNA had Sting for over 10 years. How long has WWE had him in their company? 5 minutes, and all he has done is just Scorpion Death Drop Triple H. It was a big impact. So I don't know what it's going to be for Sting if he keeps showing back up in their company, but that's going to be another subject for another time. Today we're just focused on the CM Punk interview thing on the Art of Wrestling podcast called Banner, which I guess he didn't really want to define as a shoot, but it's pretty much like a shoot. So I'm just getting this right here. Like I said, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you thought about CM Punk's interview. What do you think is in store for him next? Even though he has the comic book thing going for him. So tell me what you think is gonna happen next to him. So I'm out here. I'll see you guys later. Peace.